Hello, this is Dr. Stephen Cangiano. I am the president and co-founder of RDT.Media and Events with its online companions, relationship-development.com and humanity-upgrade.com. Today, I am welcoming Oliver J.R. Cooper. He is by far one of the most prolific authors here at RD&T. We're going to talk about that. I want to introduce him, and then I want to hear from him to fill in the gaps for us. He is an author, transformational writer, and transformational consultant. He has written 18 books. Now, I've written 2 ebooks, and I'm finally having my first full book published. The thought of writing 16, 17 more is daunting. So hats off to you for that. That is not a small accomplishment. And he's about 65, we heard 70 articles away from hitting 2,000. A prolific author. I want to get into how and why he does that. And I want to talk also about his content because it's great. We're going to talk about transformation and what his concept is versus ours, and see where we're aligned, maybe we're not aligned. Okay, Oliver, on the introduction, did I miss anything? Any gaps you want to fill in for us, or?
No, that's fine, completely fine. I think you nailed it. You added the transformational consultant part in, the transformational word, but that is fine with me. Kind of matches with the transformational writing. Just kind of goes together nicely. So perhaps I can add that to my bio later on.
Very good. Yeah, we'd like to do that because a lot of your information is transformational. So let's backtrack a little bit, because you're very open about your story and how, things were difficult, times were difficult, maybe there was some depression involved, and you had a transformational moment when a friend of yours, correct me if I'm wrong, said, Oliver, don't be another brick in the wall. What did that mean to you, and how did that change your life? And then I want to get into how that transformed your life.
Yeah, that was before I'd written anything. I didn't have any articles, certainly didn't have any books. I didn't have any journals I'd written in. And this was in 2003. And I was in Australia it was the anniversary of the kind of sad reason for me going there, because it was the anniversary of the Bali bomb. And my uncle was killed in the bomb. So we were over there. So it wasn't really like a holiday, but it kind of was, because I didn't really know him that well. I only saw him a couple of times throughout my life, because he was working in all different countries, Australia mainly, as a hotel manager. So when I was at the anniversary in Australia, in New South Wales, and this guy was speaking about kind of my uncle and what he was like and all those kinds of things, reminiscing about old times with him. And he looked at me and he said, Oliver, don't just be another brick in the wall. And at that time, it just really kind of hit me like bam, because at that point I was kind of looking for something, not completely consciously, but I was feeling a bit lost because I was at college I just finished doing sport and leisure. And I did another course. There was a gym instructor course, so I went on to do that. And this was kind of in between when I was doing the gym instructor course. So hearing that was something within me that just kind of switched on. And it was that part of me I'd been kind of aware of, but not completely. And then just hearing that kind of really kind of lit me up. But it wasn't until many years later that I really got an understanding of why that was so powerful to me, because it was also when I was in Australia that I read my first self-help book. And that was, I think I mentioned that on my site, that was by Louise L. Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. So that was another big moment when I was in Australia.
Very, okay, interesting. So let's talk about what your definition of transformation, because you're a transformational writer, consultant, maybe a transformational consultant.
Why not throw it in? Yeah.
Yeah. How would you define transformation?
Well, I think one way to look at it would be to imagine there's like an old car. It's rusty. It's in a very bad state. And then you take that car to a garage or a specialist, someone who is really fanatical about doing cars up. And then in a couple of months or however long it takes, could be years, and then that car looks like a brand new car. To me, it's like it's transforming from where it's at to something completely different. So it wasn't that I thought, wow, yeah, transformational writing, that's just perfect. What happened was in the beginning, so the backstory to this was that in the beginning, I used the word transformational, I think it was consultant. So this is before, you added that then. And then I basically went off that idea. It didn't really quite fit. And I thought, well, how can I use that with my new project? And in the beginning, my site was called A Life of Resonance. And I just thought, that's got no relevance now to what I'm doing. So when transformational writing came up, I just thought that sounds perfect for what I'm doing, but it wasn't really something that I'd really thought about, but it just seemed to fit, seemed to work at the time.
Interesting. So for me, and I'd love some feedback on this. So for me, a lot of what I write about is that we are in the age of transformation, meaning that life is changing. It's so quickly that you really can't even call it change anymore. It's really staggering what's going on. And change shows up as difficult, takes a lot of time, is hard work, where transformation is a completely new, whole higher level of existence. And a lot of your writing, I think, gets people to look at what are the leverage points of where they can transform their life, where they can take it to a whole new level, where the past doesn't really even, not that it doesn't exist, but it doesn't have the same effect or influence on their life, and certainly not a deleterious influence or effect on their life. Would that be, because that's the feeling I'm getting from your writing. Would that be accurate? Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's a bit like, for a child, children need role models. We all need role models, of course, but when you're coming from a place, let's say one area of your life's a mess, or even your whole life is a mess, you need kind of an aim, you need a goal, you need a destination, somewhere where you think, right, I can get from here and I can get to there. And then once someone's got an aim, then they've got the fuel as well, probably because they're in pain, they want to move forward, and they've got an aim, they've got a goal, they've got a destination for them to get to. So I think it's important to, and again, like with where I shared my story, they can say, okay, this guy's been here and he's been able to move gradually to somewhere else, a more happier, peaceful place. So I think it is very important to have an idea, a sense that this is how it can be. It doesn't have to be like this forever.
Right. Yeah. So I guess, how do you help people move forward? Because there's always this tension between their past and the things that are affecting their life now, things from the past, and the future. What is a way for you? What are some insights and strategies to help people move forward in their life?
Well, one of the reasons why I changed my description, like I said earlier on, from the coaching to the consulting, is that I'm not, to me, the word coach is someone who pumps someone up and, follow these and that. But to me, a consultant is someone who listens to the person. So I'll listen to them, find out their story. So what's going on for them emotionally, behaviorally, cognitively, what are their relationships like? I want to get the whole picture. I want to get as much information as I can about this person's life. And then once I've got the ideas down, it's like forming a map. forming an idea in my head, and then I can say, right, now I think you should perhaps do this based on what I've done and what I've seen has worked for others. Then you can do this or do that. So depending on the person, because I don't believe there's like a one approach fits all. And I think it's very easy to, I think it's very common with positive thinking or affirmations. Someone doesn't feel confident, right, just go and try this, go and try that. Like going to see a doctor, and if someone doesn't feel good, just pop this pill. But I think for me, it's got to be, it all depends on the individual and what they're going through.
Yeah. Interesting. When you say a coach is about pumping someone up, one of the themes, and I got this from one of our other authors, Rick Hansen, who I think you would align with, is that what a coach does, he or she activates all these positive emotions, but doesn't install or instill them in the person. And so you can activate these emotions, people can feel them, they have no permanent effect, and long-term they can have a deleterious effect because they experience these emotions but can't navigate them or can't install them, can't make them work for them on any kind of long-term basis. Is that why you switched to consultant, I'm assuming?
No, mainly because I understand that some people could say, that's not what a coach does, because people can call them, just like with me, I call myself a coach, but I didn't do that. So I can understand we can all have different meanings of the words we use. I get that. But I think what you're saying kind of reminds me of like someone who has a day out, and they have a day out where they drive a sports car for a day. So they go down to the track, and they feel terrific. Wow, this is amazing. And then they go back home and they're driving their smart, very small or an old car. And it's radically different. So I can understand that. And it's kind of trying to force, using willpower, what they often say, like willpower on steroids. They're trying to force things, and it's not sustainable, I think, is what you were saying.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem with pumping someone up. It's not sustainable, and it doesn't work long term. From my experience, and I've seen it. I've actually even seen it be deleterious, because people go to a seminar, get pumped up, don't get results. Go to another seminar, get pumped up, don't get results, and eventually, it actually can have a limiting effect. And this is a big question, but it's a theme in a lot of your writing, and you talk about a life worth living. How would you define, or what do you consider a life worth living? I know that's a big one, but I know you can handle it also.
We'll see. Well, I think for me, because I came from living a life myself that wasn't really worth living. So to me, that's why it has so much significance, because I've moved from a place of, as you said in the beginning, of feeling depressed and suicidal. I felt all the hardcore stuff. I don't say that to say, look at me. I've kind of been there, look how, brave I am to move beyond that. But I've been there. I know what it's like to feel completely crap and to struggle to get out of bed. So to me, a life worth living is a life where it doesn't mean we're happy all the time, doesn't mean we've got this constant smile on our face every second of the day and we're having all these great dreams. But to me, what it means is that we feel connected to the reason or the reasons why. It's often reasons, because it's not like there's just one reason for being here, but we feel connected to our own sense of purpose. So each day, and when we do feel connected, it doesn't then matter if, bad things happen, okay, things don't go as planned. But when we've got that connection to our own needs and the things that really kind of give us fulfillment, we don't need to be happy all the time, because we got something else. It's like seeing the bigger picture. So doing this in and of itself is fulfilling, as opposed to, if I do this, and maybe I'll get that later on, so I can put up with this crap because I'm going to get some kind of pot of gold at the end. Instead of that outlook, it's what I'm doing now is fulfilling in and of itself. So when it comes to my writing or something like that, to me it's fulfilling. It's great to complete it and to put a book together, but just writing in and of itself is very rewarding to me.
Gotcha. So How do you, because purpose is an important topic to a lot of people. How do you help people get aligned with their purpose in life? What do you do? What are some techniques? If I were to tell you, you know, Oliver, I'm not really, I don't know what my life's really about. What would you say to me to help me discover, like you've discovered your purpose?
Well, it's a good question. I'm just basically putting a book together on this, but I would say one of the key things is to have a journal. So to could just be a bit of paper, have a bit of paper, get a journal, and just start writing down what you enjoy doing. And then someone might say, but, you know, I feel flat, nothing's really enjoyable. I mean, if someone feels a bit down and they find it hard to get out of bed and they've had all these problems, and it can be very hard for them to connect to anything. And I would say that our needs and our feelings are things that really matter. The way for us to connect to them is not by being in our head, it's to be in our body. So once we can connect to our body, that is when we usually connect to the parts of ourselves that are really going to turn us on and make us feel alive. And it's like, right, I'm actually here for a reason, not just making up the numbers. So, and what can stop us from getting in touch with our body is often trauma. So we build all these defenses to avoid our pain, because if we avoid our pain, then we also lose touch with our needs and our true self, our essence. So for me, a big thing would be for someone to get back in touch with their body and to connect to the parts of themselves that will give them a sense of direction. Because when we're out of touch with our body and just in our head, then there's more of the need to look outside, you know, to the gurus and the teachers and all the rest of it. What should I do? Who should I be? And obviously other people don't know, because it's coming from them. It's got to come from us. I mean, of course, with the kind of work that we do, we can all be a catalyst, but we can't say, right, you better do this. Like like religion, it's got to come from within.
Sure. So obviously you can't tell people what their purpose is. That's not your job. It's for hopefully you to just help them discover it. One thing I do advise is that do the best where you are. Do the very best where you are in the situation you're in, and hopefully eventually that'll be revealed to you. So tell us what gets you up in the morning, and you basically you're putting out one or, you know, maybe an article a day, every other day. Where do you get that? I guess, is it passion, motivation? How would you classify it?
Well, I am motivated, but I don't always need to be motivated to write. So even sometimes I don't feel on top of the world, I can still get something down. But I think a lot of it comes down to, as I said before, where I've come from a number of years ago, feeling so disconnected and lost. And being as I was basically been forgotten about and just kind of cast aside in life. And even then, I used to, for example, I used to watch sports stars and see these people that had a purpose and mission. And I used to see that and think, wow, I wish I was a footballer, because I could have had a reason for getting up. And it's like I was always asking, looking, can't give me something. I'm not religious, so it's not like I was asking, some kind of guy in the sky. But I was always looking, come on, show me something. And it was like, if you do, I'm not going to kind of let you down and just kind of be lazy with it. So when I found something with my writing, it was just like, well, I'm going to grab this and I'm going to run with it. And I'm going to keep going. And I would say there's many different facets to it. So there's the fact that I didn't have anything before. There was me not being able to express myself really as a child. So I've had kind of all this energy and all this stuff that I want to get out. So that's been another thing. But I would say those are the main things from where I've come from. It's a bit like if you push something down and it obviously it doesn't die, you keep pushing it down. And then once you remove that, and it springs out. It's a bit like an arrow. You pull it back, and there's all this force, and it goes straight forward. And it's kind of like that. So I mean, being so pushed down as a person, and it's like, right, I've got this opportunity now. I'm not going to waste it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Good for you. So that's really encouraging. So another theme I noticed is that you really talk a lot about self-knowledge and self-love. It seems like, especially in this day and age, and this could be anecdotal, this may not be accurate, but it seems like more and more people are having trouble getting in touch with themselves. And really they feel, you always hear, I don't love myself. And this, it's really, it hurts your ears when you hear people say that, but there is really at least in the States, there is a epidemic of depression and a difficult topic to talk about, but suicide, especially in youth, young girls is more common than young boys, but it's an epidemic in both those age groups. How do you get people to, I don't love myself. How would you consult them on that? If they said that to you, what would you be saying to them?
Well, what I would say firstly is that it's not going to change overnight, because I think there's often the need for the quick fixes. But I think because it's kind of, with this stuff, there's often the two parts. So there's kind of like the conscious mind comes in, and we can have the inner critic as well, kind of, you're not good enough, and all this constant negativity in our head. And then deep down in our body, the so-called unconscious mind, there can be this attachment. So there can be, as strange as this might sound to some, even ludicrous, is that there can be this attachment to feeling that way. So perhaps, let's say when they were younger, they were, verbally abused, or it could have been something like that. And then that ends up giving them an attachment to feeling that way. So there's that inner conflict. So it's kind of like consciously they can want to move on and to change themselves, but unconsciously there can be this huge identification with basically self-harm. Self-harming doesn't have to be cutting, but there can be this big attachment to just feeling that way. So because it would be easy to say for that person to go in there with the affirmations and to start trying to insert things into them, which is not going to help. It's just going to cover things up, and as you push it down. Oh, that's great, but then it explodes and it comes out, and it's like, boom, they've been wiped out. So I mean, a lot of my work is I look at the inner child, and this is, as I say, so when we're younger and we have experiences that are too painful, as I say, we basically split those parts off to survive the pain. So what happens is we end up, even though we're physically one person, we can end up with lots of different parts within us. And these different parts can have kind of like their own identity. So they can cause us to experience different thoughts, different feelings. They can even take over who we are. And these parts, it's not about trying to change them or trying to shut them up, which is what often happens to us when we're younger. The parents try to shut us up, and then we can do that to ourselves. And often if we can get in touch with ourselves to really connect to our body, we can find that these parts that are causing us to feel crappy and all the rest of it, it can come back to a time in our childhood when we were ignored or rejected or something like that. And these parts can often need to be acknowledged and for them to express what they were not allowed to express during that time in our life. And there can be a time where we can cry. I mean, for a man, this can be more difficult because it's often seen as something that men don't do, and, be a big boy and all that kind of stuff. So a big part of self-love, I would say, is doing the inner child work. which is getting in touch, surrendering. It's not about the masculine approach of trying to remove that thought, going down there and trying to dig up trees and all the willpower. It's just about getting in touch with our body, surrendering, and allowing those parts to come up. And to do that can be overwhelming, which is probably why someone has kept it locked in. So it can require like a therapist or someone like that to hold the space, to allow them to go where they wouldn't go by themselves.
Interesting. Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there. Let me make a few comments. Totally agree with the affirmations. If it's a goal, maybe it could be good, but people say, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. The only reason they're saying that is because they know deep down that they don't. So there's something that they don't. Another thing that you talked about was, I think, this inner conflict that people, a classic example is, buy a lottery ticket, want to win, but expect to lose. And they fight these inner conflicts all the time. Get a diagnosis of, cancer, want to live, expect to, and so part of what we want to do is expect what we want and want what we expect. And it sounds like you've aligned yourself in that regard. That's what it sounds like to me. Maybe
I've certainly come a long way, but what you said just reminded me exactly. It's kind of like, intellectually, I want this. Like, intellectually, I want people to love me, I want people to accept me, but emotionally, I think they're going to reject me. So it's kind of like this conflict. So instead of having our body, our emotional self, give us the support, that's missing. So that's kind of fighting us. So instead of me against the world, it's me against myself. It's
sure.
It's R.D. Lang, the Divided Self, which is a great book. And then that, again, the emotional part, because the big issue I have is start with CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is that our thoughts create our feelings, which is a half truth. I mean, they can do, but sometimes our feelings can create our thoughts.
Absolutely.
And it's been said that there's more information goes up than goes down, but it's so common to work from the top down instead of the bottom up. So when someone starts doing the inner child work, processing their feelings, crying, grieving, and all that kind of stuff, then their body can start being in alignment with their head. So instead of, I want this, but I expect that, it's I want this, and I've got the emotional support to do that.
Right. No, exactly. And I think what you're hitting on is a field that I'm interested in is this evolutionary psychology. If you look at, basically, human beings are so vulnerable when they're born. They can't do anything for themselves for the better part of 10 years, probably 15 years, where they really can't even survive in the world. So, so basically they're totally dependent on the relationships of their parents, from their parents or their caregivers, and that dependency, if there's any gaps in that, or if there's any problems in it, or even sometimes just a misinterpretation in that field, it can really create some long-term impacts. The other thing you talk about is how we try to go from the top down, but the bottom up is really much more important, because the way our brains evolved was the reptile brain, the limbic system, which is the emotional brain, and then finally we have this intellectual human brain. And when we start to look at, when we start to excavate all the things that happened to us, even when we were like 2 years old and we have trouble remembering, all of a sudden those things are subconsciously controlling our life. And I think what you're saying is we got to get at that, release it, so that people can move forward with their life. Any comments on that?
Yeah, big time. I mean, I remember reading ages ago, and what it said is that it's kind of like when we're very young, I think before about 3 years old, we're basically just an emotional being. We're just, I mean, obviously we're still emotional beings now, but there's no intellect there. And then as we grow up, the intellect comes on, and who we were before basically becomes the unconscious mind. And as you said, we get to in our 20s, 30s, and we forgot that we've forgotten basically about what happened. And then it's like we end up meeting these people, and we might not even be aware of the patterns that are playing out here. Oh, look, just keep attracting the same person with a different face. You know, what's happening? And obviously we're the common denominator, but without that, then the mind comes in, look, you know, I feel good because someone can easily have lots of self-esteem, but deep down feel completely crap about themselves. They can be all pumped up and, you know, I'm looking for this kind of person, I don't want that, and I keep ending up with this person, so I must be a victim, and I'm unlucky, the world's against me, or someone is against me, because there's not that understanding of the root, what is going on deep down.
Yeah, and it's almost, if you think about it, it's almost impossible to intellectually excavate all those things that happen. And as you say, when people start working from the top down, they're trying to excavate something, that a safety or survival experience that happened to them when they were 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, that there's no way they can remember. And so that's really an important aspect of what we do. And that's why I think, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, the question, why don't I love myself? When you ask that question, why, you're going to get an answer that might sound reasonable, but there's no way that you could even think that that answer is accurate, because there's no way to excavate all those experiences. So I love what you're saying here. Maybe comment on that, what your thoughts are on that statement.
Yeah, I mean, because this, and I often put this in my work, is that when, like, a question like that, so why is this happening? What is going on? Why do I feel this way? So put a question in there, you know, why would I end up attracting this kind of person? A question like that, and then the mind kicks in, because if we're identified with our mind, oh, there's no reason, nothing, you know, I wouldn't want that. What benefit? Because it's a secondary game with the unconscious mind. You know, why would I want to be with a person like that? No reason. Look, I've been doing all these courses, so there's no reason there. You know, I've been working with all these people, there's no reason. So we have to basically detach. That's what people do, the mindfulness. So detaching from our head, just being with it. And sometimes we might need to just go and do a bit of cleaning, bit of gardening, something like that, and the information will come up. The insights, the information in our body will start to flow up. But if we can't get in there and try and force it in, so come on, give me the information, we've got to settle down and let it come up. It's just like with a plant, you better grow, but it's got to grow in its own way. So, and then it's a bit like that with ourselves.
Yeah, that's great, because you're right, because if you're thinking about it, by definition, you're not allowing that information to rise up or come to the surface. Yeah. No, that's really good. So when you're consulting with someone, what is your way to help them? I think you've already alluded to it, is get that self-knowledge, you said mindfulness. I love that term. How do you get them to really get in touch with themselves?
Well, again, it would be, because I've often got, depending on the issue, so I might have a few questions that will allow me to bring it up. And what I also sometimes do as well, I will ask a few questions and I'll say, right, I'll ask these now. Then maybe a few days later on, you might get some insights in, and then you can share them. And then I can take the next step, because it's kind of, it's a bit like me saying to you now, right, do you fancy doing this? And I could ask you something, a big thing. Not sure, but give you a few days and to give your mind the chance to reflect on what I've asked. And then you can say, well, maybe I'll do that, maybe I won't. But instantly, it's a bit like asking someone to do something when they're drunk. They're probably not going to make a good decision. Give them a few days when they're not drunk, and then they can come to a sensible decision. But usually I will say, so for example, let's say someone has got bad relationships with men or women. So I will say, right, okay, what was your relationship? What is it like with your mother, with your father? You know, what was it like with your siblings? How close were you? All these kinds of things. And because sometimes it can be a case of things can kind of skip a generation. So it might be okay with their parents or their caregivers, but it might have been something further back. Because sometimes people can say, oh, well, my childhood was fine. And that can be another big clue, because we can often feel the need to protect our parents. Oh, my parents are fine, because we don't necessarily want to go there. Because if we go there, it can bring up all our trauma and all the rest of it. So there can be a need to protect our parents, and therefore to stop ourselves from facing all that trauma again. So that there's got to be, so I will turn up and say, right, I'm here, I'm present. It's all about you. And then they've got to be willing as well to be honest with themselves. It's not necessarily about being honest with me, it's about being honest with themselves.
Sure.
So that they can move forward,
Very good. Yeah, no, that's true. We don't want to dwell in the past. We don't want to focus on this past. We don't want to re-experience the traumas of the past, but we do want to get complete with the past. We want it so it doesn't affect us in the present and going into the future, which it sounds like you're an expert at helping people do that, which is really phenomenal. So so I have one last question, but I just want to tell us, did I miss anything? Are there any other key concepts that you think we should cover from your vast experience?
I think we've covered a number of topics and nothing really comes to mind. But I just think a big part of this, and I think this with self-help, is often this need instant fixes. And I would say we all start at different places, and there's no set time. But for me, it's taken me a number of years. It's not like, just 2 years and I ended up, doing all this stuff. I've been writing for nearly 8 years, and I've been through a hell of a lot of stuff. But I would say that the main thing is, the takeaway is for someone to be patient and persistent and to keep going. If something doesn't work, you might just need to, keep going. But you might need to do something else. But the main thing is that you just need to keep going. Like with me, for example, I thought, what would be the point in me having all these challenges and then to live my life in this miserable way? What would be the point in my existence for that? So my belief has always been there's a way. There's a way to move beyond what I've been through. And I think that has definitely helped me to find people that can assist me, the information. And I've always been curious from a very young age to look, find information. And I think it's out there. And if it is, I will find it. I might not find it today or even tomorrow, but I will find it soon enough. And I think that is the attitude that will definitely help someone to move forward.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to unpack there, but it sounds like you're a constant learner. You're always learning more. It sounds like there's a dynamic tension between that you understand you need to learn something, but also you have enough confidence to know that you can learn it. And if I were just to make a supposition here, that one of the best ways to learn it is to teach it, and you're obviously a great teacher, and so that's really, and the final piece in that whole constellation of advice is that you got to work at it. It's not going to happen tomorrow. Maybe you'll have some quick areas of progress here and there, but overall, it's a lifetime of, hey, I want to constantly learn, constantly improve myself, and have the attitude that you can improve your life. It's not going to be easy, maybe, but you can do it. Would that sum it up there, you think? Or?
Yeah, big time. They often say that no one is born a master; they become a master. And I'm not saying that I'm a master here, but when it comes down to developing any skill, it's a constant process. It's like, as they say, we're either growing or we're dying. So it's about what we do in each moment of our life. There's no got to that point, got it all mastered. I often, you said in the beginning that about challenging me, and perhaps I can learn something different with your views. And I love the idea of reading a book and reading something that proves me wrong, because I think, oh, that's great. That's something I didn't know. Because I think as human beings, you know, our mind, we can be very dogmatic. And it's kind of, we can look at a map and see one country like that, and we can think that's the whole world. But the more information we can never see the big picture, but the more information we have, we can constantly expand our vision. And to me, that is, I think, a big key, because we can be doing things and we can be so convinced this is it, this is working, and we can be slaving away for years, but it might not be it. But if we're so closed off, this is it, it doesn't matter what's around there, because we're down here and we can't see that.
Right. And you really got to, especially in this day and age when things are changing so quickly, you really want to expose yourself to as much salient and insightful information as possible. And I got to tell you, you are a person who has a lot of salient and insightful information, and I can easily highly recommend people visit your site. I got one last question.
Thank you very much.
This is kind of a fun question. Tell me about the sweatshirt, and it's kind of your signature, because a lot of your pictures have the hood, the sweatshirt with the two things. Is that, tell me what that is?
You mean somewhere in, you know, green obviously now, but usually it's a red. It's just you know, someone else, because I did some live video calls a number of months ago, and he said to me, "Oh, that's like your brand." And your brand, I thought, well, yeah, I suppose it is, but it's just a color that I like. I mean, it's red, so it's good for grounding, because, you know, the chakra system. Don't know if you're familiar with that, but there's different colors and have different effect on us. But there was one time where I went to the gym and it was all in purple, and I just felt so blissed out. So different colors can have different effects on us, and when I even realize this. So it's just, for me, it's a grounding color. And I like it. It's not, I don't say, right, I'm doing this shoot or a video, I better wear red. Like, now, not wearing red, of course. So, I don't know, it just kind of happened.
There you go. Yeah, so it's kind of like your signature, because all the pictures on our site have you in your hoodie, red shirt. It's fun. It's fun. So you can definitely pull it off. I couldn't pull it off. I'm too old, you know, for that. But
you're pulling that shirt off there. It's very smart.
Thank you. Oliver, anything else? We could go, we've actually gone way over time here. We could keep talking probably for hours. I'm going to have you back if you're willing to come.
Absolutely.
Anything else you'd like to close? When you get your new book out, let's do another interview. Anything else in closing?
One question, just a personal question. I mean, how did you come across my work? I mean, were you looking for something in particular, or, I mean, how did it come about?
Yeah, you know, we were looking for people who were thought leaders, okay? Not necessarily, we have many academics. We also want people who had real life experiences. And again, you're so prolific. We looked and then we said, hey, would you mind contributing? And we're really happy we did.
Well, I'm very happy that I agreed to be a part of the articles being on your site, and this wonderful call as well.
Very good. You know, we really, really appreciate you having it. All right, this is Dr. Stephen Cangiano with Oliver J.R. Cooper, one of our I have to say, the most prolific author on the site by far. 18 books, almost 2,000 articles. Check out his site. We have all the links. We'll have the links here. Dr. Stephen Cangiano signing off for RDT.Media and Events. Have a great day.
Brilliant. Thank you, Stephen.